Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin. Sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing the nation's best athletic training equipment since 1932. And R4 Football Systems. Accelerate everything by decoding the game.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Speak. Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton. We got a great coach tonight. We got Coach Josh with us out of Indiana. Jamie's going to get into what the topics are tonight. Before we get going, I want to shout out to our sponsors, Team Builder and Tsunami Bar Sports.
Today's guest, Josh Sabinas, is an Indiana High School Athletic Association 5A Assistant Coach of the Year who's coached on both sides of the ball. What changed everything for him was R4, not as a playbook, but a framework for building an offense and developing quarterbacks. This is R4 in real life. We're excited to have you on, Coach.
I appreciate it. Been a big fan for a long time and happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So if you had one point, if you had to point to one thing that's taken, your coaching career to the next level, what is it? And if it's R4, kind of speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that R4 was really the framework that kind of got me there. And it was this idea of being able to systematically coach individual positions. And again, like I kind of knew the R4 framework when I was still coaching on the defensive side of the ball, but listening to Dub talk about how he's coaching the quarterback and the in-depth that he was coaching the quarterback really made me ask the question, like, am I coaching our linebackers, safeties, D-line, et cetera, to that same depth? And so, Dub talks a lot about the individual skill sets that it takes in order to play quarterback. It was kind of going in and really developing all of that on the defensive side of the ball and then seeing the fruits of the labor there and then just having that thirst for more and more and more. And so I think that attention to detail that Dub had and realizing that was the attention to detail that it really took in order to kind of be that great coach,
Yeah, and it's so funny, we talk to people a lot that ask us about R4 that are defensive coaches, and they'll ask me, is it worth a defensive coach looking into? And I say, man, like, it's exactly what it's a masterclass. Like, man, it is going to teach you football. It's not just an offensive thing. Like, there's so many ideas that I come up with because I'm just reverse engineering what I learned when I went back through the modules, so it's like, when he teaches you how to watch film, in the early OG modules, it's just like, okay, they're watching it this way, so I need to prepare for it in the opposite. So, but yeah, Coach. So, what do you think? Like, where exactly were you in your career when you discovered the R4? Were you coaching defense or offense, and did you dive in more at a later point in time? Talk to us a little bit about when you discovered it and your coaching career alongside it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I became a defensive coordinator in 2015. And then a couple of years after that, the offensive coordinator that we had moved on and got a head coaching job somewhere else. We hired a new guy in. He was going to be the OC, first-time OC, had heard about the R4 stuff, really knew it more as the passing, like Dub's original R4, the rhythm rush release, like there was just like route or passing and, like timing and all that. And like, was familiar with it and knew that he had the system. And so convinced our head coach that our new OC was going to be much more successful if he had this at his fingertips. Mm-hmm. And he was on board too. We kind of talked quite a bit about it back and forth. And so that was 2017. So you talk about the original OG modules. Yes. I remember being on there and like, hey, don't give your password to anybody. You're only allowed 4 logins or whatever it was. Yeah. And, watched all of those. And, like, I remember drawing the grid as a defensive guy and just going like, okay, hey, this is like, this particular look here. Well, this is why we gave up an explosive run, right? Because like we're a +0 right here. Yep. And really, that was when situational football for me started to become a really big thing too. In the way that kind of Dub, like, I don't know, man, like just listening to him talk, he's got a crazy good ability to make the complicated seem so uncomplicated. And listening to him talk and just listening to either the spaces and, through the halo and or the run gaps or whatever, and being -1, +0, +1, et cetera. And just, I think taking that and applying it situationally football from the defensive side of the game. Like if it's 3rd and 8, let the offense be +2 in the box. Like who cares? And that was when it really kind of started to change and morph my defensive side of the ball and kind of switched my whole philosophy and how we attack situational football and how I kind of understood situational football as well. And so, unfortunately, that offensive coordinator took he took a head coaching job about a month after that. And we ended up hiring another offensive coordinator late in the game. He never really dove too deep into the R4 stuff. And then, kind of really fast forward here to 2025, was very fortunate to have our head coach come to me and just say, hey, I know you've been really comfortable on the defensive side of the ball for the last decade, but I really think that you being the offensive coordinator could really elevate our program. And so a little bit about who we were. I'm at Merrillville High School in Northwest Indiana and traditionally a really good football program. But we had been to the Final Four 5 out of the last 6 years in our class. And so like right there, constantly, so our state championships on Thanksgiving weekend, like there's no worse way to spend Thanksgiving than to be depressed that you just lost the last game of the season, and had to experience that 5 of the last 6 years. And so, just kind of accepted that, that's what he wanted to do. And immediately dove right headfirst back into all the R4 stuff. Cause I knew I didn't know anything. My biggest concern initially was I know what I want our offense to look like, but I don't even know how to relay a play into the offense. Like, I know that the huddle focus has allowed me to steal every offensive coordinator's signal for the last 10 years, or since we got the huddle focus.
You know what works and what doesn't.
So doggone early. So love doing that, but I definitely don't want to signal. And so anyway, like, just all those worries and again, just like kind of going through the R4 system and actually went back and like re-looking over all those OG notes that I had from 2017 and feel like my notes were actually just like transcribed like a courtroom would, like that. I felt like that's what it really was.
Yes.
And so it ended up being a really good thing. So
yeah, Coach, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that resonates with obviously me and Dustin. We picked up the R4, I believe, in 2017, and we fully implemented it at York Comprehensive in 2018. We've been doing it ever since. And Dustin's been on the defensive side of the ball. I've been on the offensive side of the ball. And it changes your perspective. And what's really interesting to me is when we're going over our football 101 and we're going over Halo, we're going over how formations dictate gaps and coverage and man advantage and all those things that Doug talks about in those modules. When the kids start, like their eyes get like super big, like, oh my word, like this is a light bulb moment for a 14-year-old kid. And then what's even more crazy is you see the assistant coaches that haven't heard it yet and they had the same response. And so, but R4 is really a lens, but people think it's really just a quarterback progression system, but to you and how you guys use it, what is it to you guys?
Yeah. So for us, that lens is huge. And just, the actual R4 itself, like it goes so in depth in a million different little rabbit holes. And so where we really started this year, and again, like I said, this was my very first year taking over something new. And, like the very first thing I did is get into huddle and look at our last year's offensive cut-ups and just sort by offensive play. And, we used a number system for our route tree in the past. And, it was just how our old OC wanted to do it. And then that accompanied with the run game and all the tags were all kind of in the offensive play category together. And, I think last year that year we ran, it was like 620 whatever snaps, whatever it was. And there were like 400 different combinations of plays in huddle. And so I knew right then, like we brought our quarterbacks in the spring to start having our spring meetings again, just kind of when everything shake down and happened. And, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we had 3. And so these 3 kids are sitting in front of me and just, kind of going through and, hey, on this play, how did you read it? On this play, how did you read it? On this play, how did you read it? And like just listening to them kind of go back and forth and have the confusion that they had, it really led me, okay, like we've got to start right from the ground floor, right from the very beginning. And one of the things Dub talks about, and I'm actually going through this with another coach right now, like what is open, right? And then with your run game, what is an open gap? And the kids don't understand. They just don't know. And their definition of what's open or what is an open gap is completely different than what we would. And to be very honest, so I played offensive line my whole life up through college, played at Olivet Nazarene. Love my time as an offensive lineman, but absolutely never took a snap from behind center, right? Like that pressure that you feel having the ball snapped to you. Like I did a lot of snapping in my life, never got the ball snapped to me. But was fortunate enough to watch our quarterbacks this year at one of Dub's camps put on the VR glasses, VR goggles, and he's like got there early and he's like, well, hey, Dutch is the VR guy, right? The Dutch like, hey, well, try it out. And what really shocked me even, and I didn't account for, is even in your drop, it's not like it's just a smooth drop. Like you're bouncing up and down, right? Like there's a face masking away. Right. Like all these little things that even we had just gone through our stuff in the spring. Like I can see that read clear as day standing 3 feet behind the quarterback's drop. But yeah, I'm not moving. I'm not having to catch the bad snap from the center and then move my eyes. Like I'm already looking there. And so I think just all of those little tidbit pieces that I wasn't ready for that I had taken into account. I think so one of my guys that kind of helped me out through this whole thing is a guy by the name of Tyler Campbell. Tyler Campbell's a head coach now at Columbus East here in Indiana. He coached for Hal Mummy at Jackson State, back in the day. And so he said that Coach Mummy's big thing was like in the air raid system, coverage doesn't exist and everything's always going to be open. Just get through your progression. And so like had an opportunity to talk to Dub at the Indy Glacier Clinic last year and just like that might be true. And I hope there are a lot of air raid guys that are listening to this, but like being able to use Dub's language and the halo and the grids and all that and get to that progression quickly by understanding what route is capped pre-snap, post-snap. The other thing that we kind of got into with those in the meetings a little bit is just grading out the defensive backs, which I thought was huge.
Well, Coach, it sounds like, like the air raid is a system, they're a big, like 1,000 kicks the same way and repetition and do it. But it's like the R4 is kind of a platform to how do you perfect that system in terms of timing and acceleration, in my opinion. Yep. I feel like you could take any playbook out there and apply the R4 to it, and you're going to immediately get better. It doesn't matter if you're running inside or outside veer or what you're doing. Okay, we're going to grade the accelerators of the 3 technique and the 5 technique. And we're talking to people, it's like, well, like, is it a playbook? No, man, no. We are going to give you a system to build your playbook around that's going to perfect the timing and the acceleration of your playbook. But it's funny, man. I put one of those VRs on, and like you said, man, it's kind of like beer goggles. It's like, whoa, like I expected it to be like I'm looking at a TV screen, but I mean that thing it's just all over the place
and fast. Oh my gosh, so fast.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention in high school, you probably don't have the best offensive lineman always, and it's like so now you're adding that. Oh, I know the left side guy's not as good as the right side guy, so but no, you were talking about earlier. Back in those OG models or modules back in like 2017, the one that stuck out to me is I think it's the first section, but it's just like the defining and dictating space. And I'm not going to get too much into it because if people want to hear, they need to go subscribe because Dub's done a great job. But it was just like what you were talking about, man advantage, gaps, and it's like then you play teams who they line up the 2x2 and trips the exact same way, and it's like. You don't understand man advantage. Like you're neutral to the trips every time and you're +1 to the single receiver side. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's okay. But like if you're a 1 high defense and you're doing that, man, that's not okay. 2 high, you're bracketing, that's one thing. But it's like, so it accelerates so much of that. Like, it really does.
And just to piggyback on that, like when you're watching those first modules, like you're thinking like this makes a lot of sense. And I could see where an experienced coach that has learned these things that Dub teaches, like it's not like it's groundbreaking to the point where you're like, wow, this is reinventing football. But what he does, like you said, he conceptualizes things to teach it in a way that makes a lot of sense to people. But that's the tip of the iceberg. Like when
Yeah.
it comes, like what he's done is he's created an entire system to overlay on your offense that not only will help your current offense, but you'll have the confidence in building your unique offense as long as it kind of stays within these guardrails. And he talks about guardrails a lot, and he gives you rules, and like as long as you follow these rules and the guardrails, you can pretty much do what you want to do. And I think that's what we've seen in the last, I don't know how many years it is now, 6 7 years, but I think it's great. How has it really changed the way that you guys? So I guess talking about the tip of the iceberg, how has it changed how you guys plan? If we're going to go a little deeper, how's it helped
Yeah.
you plan for
You
the
said
game?
plan or play?
Plan. How do you
Plan.
plan like during the
Yeah.
week?
So like, and for us, okay. So very fortunate to have obviously good players, right? I mean, like with any success comes good players, and obviously wouldn't be here without a bunch of other really great coaches that were with us as well. And I mean, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say the biggest thing that I think the R4 system taught us as a staff was it's really a language, right? And getting everybody to be able to speak the same language and understand, really what that language is trying to get across. And so like when we get into our Sunday meetings, like obviously we have good players, but um, being able to understand what our players do really, really well and what the other team doesn't do well. Like I'll kind of go back here a little bit and share a story with you guys. Like I sat down with our offensive line coach, who I think does a really, really good job. And I just asked him, like, hey, I need you to grade out the defensive line. And then sat down with our running back coach and, hey, I need you to grade out these linebackers and kind of explain to him what we were trying to grade. We lost in the Final Four last year. And so went back and looked at like 3 scout tapes from that game. And just, hey, I need you guys just grade these out. Now let's just watch the first quarter of our game together. And I just want to know what you guys were doing. Like their player was absolutely incredible when he was on the ball, but was terrible when he was off the ball. Our whole first quarter run game was putting a tight end in the game. They were like a 3-4 defense, which brought that outside linebacker up on the line of scrimmage. And then he's making, he's forcing the ball like 2 or 3 yards in the backfield and just, like we're running just like a real simple G lead, like the front side guard is pulling and trying to kick that guy out. And he is just absolutely kicking our kid's butt. And so I just asked, like, anybody would ask, like, why are we running that? Like, why, first of all, it was like the second play of the game. Like, why is that the second play of the game? It's in our opening script. And then why do we keep coming back to it? And then later in the game, we get into like a 10 personnel set and we run, again, now he's off the ball. We run like wide zone, outside zone, whatever, and pick up a huge game, like rip off a huge explosive run, first play of the second quarter. Like they told me that that's what the grades were, right? Like they say, hey, this guy's a butt kicker. And so I asked, like, hey, why, again, kind of going back, why were we running that in the first quarter? And they said, well, that was our most productive, efficient, however you want to label it, like that was our best run play all year. And so I said, I kind of like changed their way of thinking.
Coaches, if you're looking for a way to train strength, stability, and intent without beating your kids up, you need to be using Tsunami Bar Sports. The Tsunami Bar isn't just another specialty bar. It's controlled chaos. That oscillating load forces athletes to stabilize, brace, and produce force the right way. We're talking improved posture, better joint integrity, and real-world strength that actually transfers to the field. Whether you're training linemen, skill guys, or quarterbacks, Tsunami lets you coach each movement with quality while building power. It's simple to implement and perfect for high school programs that want to train smarter, not just heavier. Check out Tsunami Bar Sports and start building athletes who can handle chaos on Friday nights.
And just kind of all back to player grades.
Well, it's like, and not to get too much into Dub's content, but it's like you dictate the space the defense has to cover.
Yeah.
And like what I'm hearing you say is, man, like y'all were hopping in a formation that allowed their matchup to be better than our matchup. When if you'd have stayed and the tight end off or away, you had a much better way to attack that pin player.
100%.
And it's like, and it just shows you going into your first year. It's like the validity of why did we struggle in these games? It's not, I think there is some validity of, man, we're averaging 6.5 yards every time we hand power off. Probably should run some power. You know what I'm saying? But you also, is the pin player that you're going against that week the same grade out as the pin players you've seen the last 6 weeks? Because you've been able to kick out the defensive end the last 6 weeks. This dude, it's not happening.
Yeah, I agree. You might have to confirm, how good he is and how that matchup is. But yeah, I think too with the planning and just taking it year after year, it almost forces you to have enough answers in your offense now. Because like if you're just going to run power, there's been years where we just run power, and like that's our play. Well, that defensive end's really good. Well, the the thing in the meeting that I don't want to hear is, well, by God, we're going to run power this week. Well, you might get shut out, so you might want to run something else, or and that applies to any type of play like that. But no, man, that makes a lot of sense. And for us on our offensive staff, it streamlines everything too. So we don't have a lot of different types of grades when we grade players. Our coaches know what's expected, how to do it. They speak the same language, and now I feel like there's like a cohesiveness to all of our game planning, because now if I trust the guys that are speaking the same language as me, and I know they've done the work, and they got a lot of influence on what we might do on Friday night. Is that similar for you guys?
Yeah, the big thing for us too inside of that meeting is like, so again, I'm a big analytical guy, and just have done a huge study of about 500 games over the last 4 years. And in those 500 games, the offense averages about 56 plays, and then a game, and then you break that down into different situations, and you're about 38 to 40 plays that are open field, base downs. And when you look at that, like, again, I know that inside of the R4 thing, like, you don't have to have 8,000 different plays, and just getting into the formations that, like you guys kind of mentioned earlier, that dictate leverage, space, the man advantage in the run game. How are you going to do it? How are you going to make it all kind of look similar? And then coming up with an answer off of that. Like, we basically tried to get 12 plays in one formation. That allowed, we tried to get it right around four formations a game. And then that, you end up with your 40 to whatever plays.
That's right.
And again,
are you guys specific? Are you guys strict on your? Are you using the same grid?
Yes. So that grid, so that grid for me was a lifesaver, right? Because it really made it so that you don't practice, you can't carry more than that, right? Like, just from a practice standpoint. I mean, there's something to be said about comprehensive reps over the course of a season and being able to do some of that, but like, it really, I don't want to say restricts you, but like, as crazy as it sounds, like you said, we have some really unbelievable assistant coaches, like, just that really work their butt off. They do a great job putting all the data into huddle and everything else. And like, at the end of the meeting, we're all kind of throwing ideas and this and that, and kind of going through the formation grids and all, probably similar to what everybody else is doing. And where's the man advantage? Where's the space in the pass game, et cetera? And then it's like, all right, hey, like, what are we missing? What else do you guys like? It's like, this guy will say, well, what about this? Or what about this? Or what about this? And it's like, hey, well, if we do that, what do you like it better than what's already up here? Exactly. And I think that it just because like, if we're going to do that, that's great. But then we got to take something else off, because we're not going to, like, we're going to end up practicing this twice. I'm not going to feel comfortable enough to call it in a game. And, it's not going to end up being good. Like, I just believe that the offense controls so many different variables that that coaches just don't take advantage of. And so, like, for us, and again, this is coming from a defensive background, like, again, it's easy to say, like, hey, what are the things that I hated, right? Or didn't like to face. But more importantly, it was like, not things that I hated, not things that I didn't like to, what did our kids just struggle with? And so, like, the three things that we really tried to focus on this year was changing the snap count, go long, have a freeze, like, as many different ways as you can possibly handle. The second one that we really focused on a bunch was tempo. And not that we wanted to go super fast all the time, but we've got to be able to slow down the tempo and we've got to be able to speed up the tempo when we want, and have a process for doing that, right? And so the last one was just motioning, and obviously changing the picture, one motion, double motion, shifts, trades, jet, whatever you possibly could. And like everybody I talked to in last offseason, they did maybe one. I think the most undercoached thing that I think colleges and NFL teams do a great job of is the cadence. I think high school teams do a ridiculously terrible job of changing up the cadence. But having a system that's really flexible and being able to do all three. Our plan process that you're talking about there, it was about putting the grid together, but then it was also, hey, how can I put that together and then incorporate? I mean, the cadence is pretty easy, right? Like to some extent, but then how do I incorporate the tempo and how do I incorporate the motion to be able to get all that built in together? And so that it's not just a hodgepodge of crap and do it whenever you feel like it, but that it's actually makes sense to systematically do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
we had a guest on one time, PJ Katz. He's with Pro Quick Draw. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he talked about buckets. And, you know, the more you talk about those three, I think I would call those operational things, you know, tempo, cadence, and shift and change the picture. I think if you're intentional, like you're talking about, and creating buckets on how do I naturally get these in, you know, so like we were talking to him about schemes. So it's like, hey, here's our counter bucket, or here's our strong run bucket. And it's like, hey, you got a box guy. Hey man, I got these 6 looks. These are the best counter plays we need to hit out of those looks. And I think, you know, the more you talk about it, so I think you could be intentional with that, with cadence and tempo and the operational things of, how do we intentionally get that? Like you said, so it's not a hodgepodge. It's just not like I've been guilty of, oh man, we said we're going to go on 2 this middle second quarter. We haven't went on 2 once, you know what I mean? And then it just happens to be a situation where like they know on 2's coming, you know what I mean? But I think my first year calling offensive plays, the thing that I struggled with, which what you're talking about solves that, the grid, not having too many plays, was like, it would be like the second drive of the game. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to call these plays yet. Like these were game plan. And it's like, dude, it's time to call them already. You know what I mean? It's like, that was one thing, like implementing the grid, and the R4 helped me throughout that season, that year, bridge that gap and solve that pain point of, okay, rely on the grid. Understand you're front loading so many things. Rely on the grid. Like, call the plays. They're there for a reason. Like you said, you only get a certain amount, but that's what was kind of going as you were explaining that.
And really the whole process too that I've really enjoyed is when things are flowing well on Friday night, I rarely look down. And obviously it's probably because we're executing, but then I'll go back and I always want to make sure that, okay, good game, bad game, where are we calling things that we practiced? Where are we calling things on the grid? And typically those things go hand in hand. Like, I didn't look at the grid, but why are we calling plays that are working? Because in practice, you know, we're running those plays. Like, we're scripting the plays from that grid that we talked about as a staff. We are going through that whole process. Our kids know what to do. And look, all good coaches probably do these things. This just streamlines it, I think, in my opinion, like nothing else. And talking about buckets in some areas, or having different ways to run plays. So, you know, talk about stick, 3x1 stick. Well, for me, I kept finding myself being able to run that play. That's probably our best pass play. Obviously, it's probably most people's, but be able to run that play 6 or 7 different ways kind of naturally by filling out the grid, if that makes sense, because we're looking at the defense. What do they struggle with formationally, right? So if they're leaving a bubble, if they're playing man covers in a certain look, like, we can find those bubbles naturally. And so you find out yourself run the same play 5 or 6 times. Maybe it's a shift or a motion. But no, I love that. And it seems like we're kind of speaking the same language. Have you noticed it? Like, yeah, go ahead, Coach.
I was just gonna say, like, the other thing too, like, again, to all the offensive coordinators that are just finding out they're calling the offense right on you know, end of December, beginning of January. The thing for me is, I knew I wasn't the smartest guy in the room, so I didn't try to be the smartest guy in the room, right? And like our very first game of the season, week 1, it helped really give me the confidence to be able to call a game. And I mean, obviously you're practicing ways to do that in the preseason and in summer, you know, whenever you're able to, August, whenever you're able to put pads on and practice. But like, as silly as it, like, we got into 3x1 back strong, and there was like just a little swing pass out to the back. Like, we called it 13 times week 1, 13 times. And so, like, I remember, like, the 5th or 6th time, the guy in the headset, like, "Hey, are we really calling that again?" Like, "Well, yes. Why?" "Well, we still have the numbers advantage, right? We're still, as long as everybody does their job and blocks, like, they haven't adjusted. So, like, why are we trying to call something else? Like, there's no reason to get down on the grid. There's no reason to go to another formation. There's no reason to do something different." And so, like, we throw this simple little silly screen out there 13 times, and I don't know, for like 250 yards week 1, and it just, for me, it gave me, like I said, just gave me the confidence. Like, I don't, again, I don't know, because I don't have that frame of reference of pre R4, post R4 type thing. But I just, as a defensive guy, you always tell, like, oh, they're not going to throw the hitch all the way down the field. They're not going to continue to do this over and over. And, like, I mean, there were times where we called it 2, 3, 4 times in a row. Like, "Hey, why are we, and again, coaches on the headset, like, "You sure you want this again?" Why would we not? Right? Like, why? Like, until they change what they're doing, like,
Right. And then that gives you the ability to, jump on the grid for your setup, right?
Yep.
So that's what I like about it too. Now you being the first, calling it for the first time, did you also see how the R4 helped like your younger players, kind of maybe the guys that are coming up from JV, like really start to take on and maybe develop faster than they would otherwise?
So for us, like, we only had, we had like one varsity receiver coming back that had a good, had a good a good junior year. And so when it came, like, we knew, like I said, we knew we had a really talented quarterback and wanted to throw the ball more, and really revamped our pass game. Just broke it down right from the simplest. And then, like, we get into April, and we're in Indiana, we're allowed, I don't know, it's like 10 practices or something like that in April, no pads. It's right during the middle of our track season, our varsity, kid. It's like all of our kids are doing either shot, disc, running events, all that. So, like, it's kind of got to be pretty low on the load management deal. But again, we're implementing new stuff. We got to get work done. And it really was apparent right from the beginning, our kids didn't know how to get open. And that was on air, right? Like, we're throwing the
Mm-hmm.
ball on air. And like, one of my favorite drills, love doing it, like, just in the whole progression world. Like, let's say you got your basic Y cross, right? We would just set up 4 quarterbacks and then run Y cross, obviously, like, your basic 5 and out, cross, curl with the back out back out to the curl, where the first quarterback, he's taking his drop, and obviously he's hitting the out route. Second quarterback's hitting the cross. Third is hitting the curl, and then the back. Fourth one's hitting the back, but making them go through the progression, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, the timing of it should, right, ball out, 2, 3, 4, like, you should see them reset. And, like, we would go to reset and receivers weren't there, or we would go to reset and the receiver was, like, just already standing still, like, waiting for the ball or not in the right place. And so when I say that they didn't know how to get open, like, part of that was running routes and things like that, tempoing routes, but they didn't understand how to get open or when to get open. And so, like,
Coaches, it's 2026. If you're still running your strength program off spreadsheets, whiteboards, and guesswork, it's time to level up. Team Builder allows you to plan, track, and manage your entire strength conditioning program in one place, off season to in season, all the way from middle school athletes to college athletes. You can individualize your workouts, track attendance, monitor progress, and keep your athletes accountable. Best part, it actually saves you time. Your athletes know exactly what they're doing when they walk in the weight room, and your staff stays aligned every single day. Team Builder isn't just software, it's structure, accountability, and consistency for your program. Get a free 30-day trial with the promo code CoachSpeed. And that was a big thing that, that I learned is, like, realistically, we in high school with the offensive line you probably can get through 3 routes if you're on it, timing with your drop. Like, but it's like, to your point, to get to the 4th route, it's because you've accelerated already knowing I'm going to validate, but it's already moved me to my next route. And
yeah,
I think that is a huge thing. And that comes to, I think, tying everything that you're saying, drops and timing is so important. And it's
Huge.
not just at the quarterback position. Like, it is at the offensive line position. And I think that's what's underrated that people like you were talking about earlier. Dub has a conceptual way for breaking down every position, especially quarterbacks. And it's like understanding the difference between a quick game set, or how do we set the protection so our man side is to the rhythm side of the pass, the pass progression. Like, and then it goes to the receivers. You know what I mean? Like teaching them what kind of route do you have, you know, because you have rhythm corners, read corners, you have different timing corners. And it's like, I coach defense. So when I go through everybody's snag concept, like when we discuss it with the DBs on the timeline of when the routes are breaking, guys, they'll never hit this corner route because he's going to be scrambling because of the pressure we're going to get, or because it's just not going to be there. The timing, like they're running a 14-yard corner. Man, that thing's not going to be open with any coverage that we run. And it's like, and then, you know, I also like to, when I chart concepts, how are they reading it in terms of where the eye's going, but also when they get completions, I try to chart what on the timeline that I know are they throwing the ball. So if you're talking about snag, corner, snag, back, let's just say 2-man snag, the backs and the flats. Well, if they're consistently throwing the snag on rhythm, they're not going to throw the corner. Like if they're a snag to corner thing, that's not going to work. Like it's just not going to work because we're going to collision, get our hands on that guy, or it's going to be capped by the time they get to the read. It's going to be capped, forced to the back, rally, buddy tackle. Like it's, and that's where I think
you can accelerate the defensive players. Now your curl player can really accelerate. Look, man, they're going to throw this on rhythm. I need you to open up your hips now. Like that's the rhythm route. Now, if it was the read route, maybe a little bit different. Now you might have to play 2-to-1 and all that, but that's really important. Just talking about receivers, look, it's we teach coverages to obviously receivers too. You know, like just like Dub would teach the quarterbacks, like cover 0. Well, who's the rhythm route guy? Raise your hand, receiver. Well, you might have a fade here, might have a corner, get a slant. Well, you better get open like on time, and you might not be open, but expect the ball if it's man cover. I mean, obviously cover 0. So just little things like that have made the big difference for us.
Yeah, and like you know, I mean, you're talking about like the question, kind of the genesis of the question too, being young guys, like, and I don't know, man, like maybe I'm just really doing a bad job of coaching our receivers, but I hope I watch it on film. I see a lot of high school teams. I hope everybody's struggling with the same thing, but like, you know, the receiver that wants to stand with a straight knee, right? So that as soon as the ball snapped, okay, now I'm going to drop my knee and drop my hips and explode out. Well, like, hey, like you use the little huddle timer there. Hey, buddy, like you just cost yourself, 0.2 of a second, and you're now not going to be open, right? Yep. So like just coaching that there, or like I can't tell you how many times there was, and again, like we would get into a tempo situation, right? And our receivers are worried about being in the perfect landmark because Coach Sabinas is always yelling about landmarks and being on the divider and this and that, and then, well, gosh, like we want to be as close to the line of scrimmage as we can without being, offside. Like even if your receiver's off the ball, right? Like we don't want you 3 yards back. We want you to be as close to the ball as you can without being, well, all right. So now I gotta, well, hey man, like we're tempoing and you're looking at the official on the sideline still trying to get set. Like, yeah, you're set. So it's not a penalty, but because your head's not where it's at. Like your route's already dead because you're late getting off the football. And so like just being able to coach through some of those, and I guess my point in saying that is like, I know everybody's coaching that, but we're not coaching that as, hey, do it because I said so. Like we're doing that as saying, hey, just so you understand, like you need to be here at 2.2 seconds. Well, because you dropped your hips in your stance when the ball was snapped, because you were looking at the side, whatever the case is, we pause it. Here's where you're at 2.2 seconds. You see how you're not looking at the quarterback to be open? Well, when you're not looking at the quarterback and your face mask isn't facing his face mask, he's going to skip you in the progression and move on.
Exactly. And I think too, like even post snap, like, so like those are all kind of pre-snap things. The post-snap things where I think all the money's made in intermediate passing game, because now we call it straight line pad level, which is really avoiding collision and using leverage. So we use lean and leverage to create separation, to restack. I mean, all those things are huge for us. And so we do the same thing. Like, look, you got to read seam. You've got to look lean, stick, opposite, rip, and restack. And you got to be there about 2.2 seconds. and the quarterback knows we got to throw that between 18 and 25 yards. Like
Mhm.
those are little, but you don't see many people doing that these days. You don't see much of the intermediate passing game being executed at a
Sure.
high level because those details I don't think are being taught
Are
anymore.
there.
Especially, and I don't want to get on this tangent, but like, dude, you watch that 7-on-7 stuff, man. Like,
Oh my goodness.
or like
Yeah, yeah.
the out of
Well, I think,
season,
you
like they're
know,
not doing none of that.
me and Caleb, we always used to like talk through it, and he'd say, "Hey man, like when we put these concepts in today, what releases do you think we should work?" And we'd talk, and I'm like, "Here's how I think about it at every position. We're going to look at the primary way that we're going to do it, and that's how we're going to do it." So, for example, if you call it a slice release, the easiest release to get to the route side space into the route that you can get the quickest you can get, we're going to work that until we need to dig in our toolbox and get a different release based on alignment. And that goes for every position. Hey, if we're running a counter scheme, we're going to pull the guard until they give us an alignment where we have to reach in our toolbox and we have to do something else. Hey, we're going to play this divider leverage or we're going to play this alignment on defense until they give us a split or a flank where we got to reach in the toolbox and do something else. So it's like when you see a trips formation and you're playing 2-eye coverage, you may handle the single receiver differently. As soon as they go to nub, now you have a different thing in your toolbox you're checking. Hey, our center can't block back a 3 technique, so we're going to make a call where we pull the center. And I just think having those, the way you're going to do it, and then having the way, it's like, okay, going back to what you're saying, why are they not getting open on the timeline? Well, is it because of the alignment of the defense? Are they disrupting? Or so do we have to teach them tools to avoid that, to continue to try to be open on that? Or is it just, hey man, like we just ain't getting to where we need to be or running the route the right way? And I think being able to assess that in all positions is really, really important.
I think one too is help my quarterbacks is adjusting the drop based on the perceived amount of time it's going to take to get open. So
Yeah.
like for me, if we're running like a snag concept down at the goal line, goal line red, low red area, well, if they're running press man on our slot receiver, I'm not going to take a punch set, throw it. I'm going to have to give him time, even if it's a 4-step corner. We're going typically it's a 6-step, but if we're down there low, it's going to be a 4-step. I'm going to give him a little bit more time. Typically, if we're in the middle of the field, I'm catch punch set or I'm, taking a traditional 3, but I might take a punch 3 in those situations, let him work a diamond release or a double stick outside release and lean. But those little things have helped the quarterback too, instead of him just patting the ball,
Yes.
doing freaking foot fire. That
Yeah.
I hate
And
that crap.
Jamie, kind of what you're talking about, I'm gonna share this real quick since we're kind of talking about it. But the game plan cards that Dub came out with this year
Mhm.
is so important when you're grading the DBs you're going against. So now, you're sitting with your receiver saying, hey, when we get into the high red or the low red and we're gonna call snag, let's look at who this guy is and grade him out. That way he knows what tools to try to avoid collision and get open as quick as possible in
Yep.
those condensed areas. And that's why I think it's genius that he has the system to do this, to teach you how to use these cards, and then how you incorporate the kid actually
That's the
doing
big
this.
piece.
That's the piece, and that's why I wanted to drop this picture in there real quick.
So that's huge. And we use
Yep.
those exact cards, right?
Yep.
And being able to hand those out on a Saturday morning,
Mhm.
create cut ups. And so we have columns in huddle of again, run concept, but then who the receiver who the DB was that was having the ball thrown to him, what was the route, and then what was the man or zone right next to that, right? So those 3 columns, and being able to, and again, I don't know how everybody else is doing their huddle. I know, like, if there's anything that I feel like we as an offense do really, really well, it is organized huddle. Again, this is our team huddle, and like, you can see right down here, right? Merrillville offense versus, this is our week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. And so, like, if I go to our last game of the season, each one of these is essentially a folder system. And you just end up with folders, right? Game plan, situations, formations, blitz cut up, explosives, pressures, tackles for loss, motions, quick looks, grading your D-line, grading your linebackers, grading your corners, your safeties, down and distance, full games. And so when we tell our kids, hey, we want you to grade the corners, like, of course we share that, but all those grades are right, grading safeties. They go here and that, all those grades are right there for them, and it's easy to find.
I like what you're showing, Coach. It's like instead of having playlists that are all scrambled, it's like,
Correct.
listen, we're going to take it instead of, having 14 playlists, because let's be honest. I mean, if the defensive coaches share the film to all team, every offensive player gets all of the as well. So it's like having a way, like that's I've never seen it filed like that, but man, that
pretty
process,
slick.
And all you got to do is just set it up as a practice, right?
yes,
Like
yes.
Set it up as a practice.
that
And then you
Monday,
can-
like, so
yeah.
if the game week is Friday,
Yep.
October 10th, right? You just set it up for like that Tuesday. And then again,
Nice.
our defense does the same thing,
Yep.
right? Where,
I'm doing
where
that.
it, for us,
like
it's
that.
Merrillville
I'm in.
offense. with
I'm all
so-and-so.
in on that. That's perfect.
Yeah. So like the other thing too is, and again, I use an old school huddle, not like just because I'm old and stubborn, but for those coaches that are not doing it, like clicking on one of these and
Mhm.
then going to your filters
Mm.
and then having, I mean, you can see like all of these, I've got like 70 playlists that just churn out every week just by
Yep.
having it set up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I know everybody's probably already doing this, but like, clicking all of these and then just having them, and then you just go in and you just, filter it for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely huge, right? Because then like all the work is kind of already taken care of. In my opinion, it's like, that's a must do. I can't remember the last time I shared a full game with a kid. They don't like our players don't watch the full
inefficient.
game.
It's
Like,
inefficient.
like would you ask them to go watch a Colts game? Like, hey, I need you to sit down and watch the whole Colts game this weekend.
Right,
Like,
right.
no kid's gonna do
You
that.
don't watch film like that with the kids either. I mean, it's like
No.
you're always going to pull up the film that you want to see, the cut ups that you want to see. I like that though. That's cool.
Coach, so I got a question since you kind of talked about huddle. Is there something, either offense or defense, is there something that you feel like just there's one or two columns that you chart that maybe you don't think anyone else is doing that gives you an advantage or an edge that you're willing to share?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think it is?
So like for me, a lot of it is pertained to, from the defensive side of the ball, it would be like opponent scout. We would do this with opponent scout. When we switched over to the offensive side of the ball, I did it as self scout. And I really, like I said, I think it's huge. Like we have a pressure column, right? So like if our left tackle is number 59, if he gives up a pressure, then we just type in 59. And about every 3 weeks, we pull up all the pressures, and then we're watching that cut up with him. I know that's similar to grading, right? Like you would grade a player out, but I don't
It's
know.
more of a production grade.
Yeah, like
What are they
maybe our
allowing to
kids,
happen?
maybe it's just our kids, but like, and again, I'll take left tackle just because that was the jersey number 59 there. Like, hey, I know you graded out at 96% this week, but that was because the DN only stunted inside one time. If he would have stunted inside 15 times, if that DC would have been smart enough to do that 15 times, you would have graded out at 50%. So like, I don't really care that you graded out at 90%, right? Like I want to know why you're, what it is that's giving you the trouble, and let's continue to work that, right? So that pressure column is huge.
Yeah.
We have a column that's broke pocket. And so like when the quarterback breaks the pocket, and then again, like I'm constantly, this year we had more than probably I would like, but I want to know, like, and again, the R4 system, right? There's 4 ways to escape the pocket. I want to know, one, like, are you escaping the pocket correctly? Or are you always going the same direction? And again, like coach, you being on the defensive side of the ball, like how many times, like, hey, the quarterback is always escaping the pocket deep into the right. All right, well, we're going to send that defensive end inside and loop our 3 technique out, and he's going to run right into our 3 technique, right?
So coach, when you do that, are you so I chart obstructions. So
Yep.
like that's any time that we have, the 12% rule is kind of where we got that from. So like it'd be like a penalty, negative play, all
Yep.
that. And then we do like obstruction position and maybe what they've done on huddle. When you get we don't do broken pocket, but I love that. Do you put anything beside it as to why that pocket may have broken down, whether it be a pass protection or a wrong progression or didn't get open? Do you ever do that to try to
like
nail down?
that that particular column is right next to the pressure column.
Okay.
Right. And so like, it's real easy to just, again, if you're watching these in 2 or 3 week increments, you hope your quarterback's not breaking the pocket, 30 times in those 3 weeks. You hope it to be less than that. Usually it's about 10 to 12. Usually if I extend that little cursor, the spreadsheets part of Huddle, if I pull it all the way up, all those plays fit there. It's really easy to see, okay, hey, which are the ones that he's leaving the pocket because of pressure? And then obviously if the pressure is blank, then that means, and again, sometimes the pressure is the quarterback, right? Like, hey man, like you created this pressure by escaping the pocket or stepping up when you didn't need to or whatever, right? So that's part of the process as well. But the broke pocket for me, like if it's blank, okay, you left the pocket and there was no reason to leave the pocket. And so
Yeah,
like
it's like a premature exit.
yeah, let's watch those. Like, why is it because you just you got to a certain point in the progression or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah,
let's
right.
watch those. Why for me, it's more about creating that cut up, right? Like, I want to be able to have some type of tangible data in there, and then once I get it in there, now I can. That's usually a small enough sample. It's not like I'm watching an inside zone cut up with
Right.
150 clips, right?
Yeah,
Like
you're
that's
looking at
small
like
enough
sub
sample
20.
size.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can watch through what do my eyes tell me. So
Yeah.
but the broke pocket has been huge.
And that's from more of a cut up standpoint. I like that. Just having
Yeah.
different columns one's for cut ups, maybe some are for running data report, that like that. Yeah.
And I think that's really good information. If you're charting like what routes they're throwing in the progression, and if you're going against a defense that, like you said, they never get to the third, well, is it 80% because of their pass rush? Now we have to have more tools to handle those monsters up front.
Yep.
And so one thing we look at in terms of scouting our opponent, like columns wise, that I think is important is like everybody charts formation, play, and protection from a defensive standpoint. But I try to go a step further, and I'll do that, and I'll also do formation family, play family, protection family, because when we teach it to the kids, yeah, they might run GT counter, they might run GH counter, they might run dart, they might run guard kick. Like, we're going to chart that as counter. So the kids need to know, especially at linebackers and for fits, 68% of their run is counter. So when we read that guard triangle to the backfield, buddy, if you just follow your keys and your reads, you're going to have a phenomenal night. And it's the same thing. Like, I like looking at the protection families. Like, is it a 5-man combo, 5-man, 6-man check, 7-man sprint out? What is it? Because that's how I'm going to game plan against you. Like that's where it comes in for me, and then formation family. I think it's even better than, just separating formations, because that family gives you a broader picture of, well, we're going into week 9. They're 83% run in these formation families. They're 82% pass in these formation families. And I love how the way when you chart it, it paints the picture for the kids. And they get pissed off. It's like, really? Like 83%, like the DBs, 83% run, coach? Like, man, I don't want to, like, I'm going to be bored out there, but it's like, that's kind of the columns that I like using when we're looking at our opponents because of how it paints that picture.
Sure.
Jamie, what do you do? Well, you got one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last couple of years we've just been charting a ton of data for our self scout, and so we run that through like all sorts of things just to get an idea of like. Really, I do that for more self scout purposes over 3 to 4 week chunks, and then I do a big end of year, and that kind of throughout the year I like to use that to try to narrow or teach me what we're doing well. And so we chart past family, like our own past family. That could be like intermediate, quick, shot, whatever, and then past type. So it might be a flood, stick, curl, and all those things. And we try to get a picture of what we do there. Same thing with run game, and that's really helped us kind of narrow into what we do well. And so then it's like now we can start eliminating. We're not very good at intermediate, but we're good at quick and we're good at shots. Wow, we're really good at shots. We need to continue to take more shots. And I think those are just interesting things that we've done with a little bit of data behind it to give us some credibility when I start thinking about that. But yeah, I think those are the things the last couple of years that I've really tried to do is narrow in on like the pass type and the pass family. Same in the run game.
That's
Guys, I got one more that I think would be really really good.
For sure.
And that is we chart a bad ball. Like if your quarterback throws a bad ball, and then the column right next to that is what route. And so then you're able to go watch that cut up every 2 or 3 weeks. What route is he not throwing well?
Mm-hmm.
And then, can you change it, right? Like, so again, like you read slot fade the same way as you read the fade by one and the 5-yard out, right? It's the same read, but if he throws the 5-yard out a lot better than he throws the hitch, well, then let's make sure that we're calling what's right. Let's make sure we're practicing, practicing the throws that he can't throw.
I like that. Yes.
And that was huge. That this year, not asking your quarterback to do something that he can't
exactly
do. And it's huge.
I like that because that kind of ties into what I was just saying too. Is like we're not going to continue to call concepts that are not very efficient, and so but I like that you're talking about maybe it's a particular route, and if everything is looking protection's good, the progression's great, but he just can't throw the route. Is there something that we could change instead of a fallout? Can we run a hitch?
Sure.
Instead of a 4-step out, can we run a hitch?
Where I got all that is, and I think it's give credit to Lincoln Riley here. Like Lincoln Riley really likes the curl on the backside of Y cross, and I know a lot of teams are going to the dig on the backside, right? And so like as soon as you understand the Y, right, a lot of teams like the dig on the backside of Y cross. Well, one, because it's too high and that safety is going with the cross, but also because it helps your quarterback not have to
scan all the way back.
Yeah, scan all the way back, right?
I do like a backside dig. I don't know if anybody knows that or not.
Lincoln Riley likes the backside curl because he's saying, hey, if you get to your third progression, like let that guy kind of be a standstill guy. Like it's harder to hit, scan somebody that's, if you're scanning back to the right, but he's running a route to the left, that's a little bit harder to throw. So anyway, like even just that, like we found this year, okay, hey, like it's not that he can't throw this route or that route, but man, when it's the second or third progression and he's got a reset to it, that's a little bit harder. Well, that changes. Like everybody throws route on air, right? Everybody throws routes on air. And okay, well, hey, we're going to throw routes on air, but instead of, again, I'll use the dig, instead of the backside dig, right? Instead of just reading that the whole time as if it was the rhythm route, let's go ahead and reset twice back to it.
Correct.
Because that's
and
really
there's
where
some other things too. Like even if you didn't like the dig, and you like curl, well, sometimes a curl is kind of too far away. Depending on, you could change the split, or you can even run like a burst release or a slide release curl, to kind of get him inside that hash where he doesn't have to scan so far. And then it also helps if you have obviously the back going to the field too, creates more of that horizontal stretch. I think I like that you're talking about where I wasn't before the R4. So I was always afraid to deviate from the air raid principles because no, man, that's how Mummy told us to do. And so therefore I'm going to do it. And hell, he's smarter than I am. So I'm not going to.
Jamie, you're talking about the horizontal stretch on the curl flat player to the field, right?
Correct.
That's got to cover from basically
100%.
middle of the field to the sideline. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's kind of why if you keep running into him, you almost cap yourself with the dig if you don't run it correctly. And if you sit it down, it allows
you
him
could
to
run
find
a
space.
post curl. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But I think with having these guardrails, knowing they're both going to come open at a certain timeline and a certain reset, then you can just build that tool into your system. I love it.
And not to completely circle all the way back to the beginning of the pocket, right? But you kind of asked the question, like, how has R4 really influenced you in a coaching career, right? And my answer was that Dub and the depth that he coached at really made me think about the game of football in a much deeper way, right? If we're grading out what the defense doesn't do well, then good DCs are going to be looking at what our kids don't do well. And furthermore, shouldn't we also be looking at what our kids
100%.
are not doing well and stop putting them in position? Like
either get rid of it or get better at it.
Right. Like, hey, every time they call cover 3, the corner doesn't play the divider and over the top. Okay, well, you probably shouldn't you shouldn't ask that kid to play cover 3 anymore, right? Well, same thing. If our kid can't throw this route, why do we continue to call it and ask him to do it?
Excellent, Coach, man. This has been awesome to hear from another R4 guy. Just having you on all the way out from Indiana, man, that's pretty cool. I think first guest from Indiana.
Yes.
There we go.
Shout out to the old Hoosiers.
Hoosier State.
Hoosier State, man. Well, Coach, we appreciate it, man. Great meeting you, and hopefully we can maybe see you at a clinic one day and kind of catch up again. So, but guys, it's been a really good episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey guys, don't forget to use the promo code CoachSpeak with our awesome partners, Ray Cruller, Team Builder Practice, R4 Football Systems, Pro Quick Draw, Dome Headwear, and Optimum Grading. Catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.